Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are. Welcome to Asian Highway 1. This is our debut podcast. AH1 presents the Asian Highway, Storytellers in Action. I'm your host, Pimo. Joining me are Debesh and Medha. We also have a couple of musicians here in studio. We'll get to them in a minute. But let us get rolling with our first show. Our theme for this episode and this season is music. So we'll be talking about various musical themes and topics with the point of telling a story and these stories leading to action for all of us to make our lives better. So before we get into some of these musical discussions here, let's introduce our co-host. Hello, Debesh.
Hello. How's everybody doing out there in podcast land? We're very happy to have you here. We're really excited for this season. Like Barimol said, our theme is music. So we're going to have a lot of musically inclined and associated guests. We're really excited about hearing their stories and having them here in action. Medha, how excited are you on a scale of 1 to a gazillion?
I'm very, very excited. So, on the way here, I was thinking about various American institutions that have really supported the Asian American community. And I happened to drive by the Scientology Center. And I suddenly remembered that when I was 14 years old, I was in a subway in Tokyo. And I was recruited by a person from the Church of Scientology. I didn't know they were from the Church of Scientology at the time. And they were trying to pawn off a book of Dianetics in Hindi, which I thought was very strange in a Tokyo subway that someone spoke English and had a copy of Dianetics in Hindi. But after having studied a little bit about Scientology, I realized that Ron L. Hubbard had spent a lot of time in Asia. What we're trying to do is slightly different, which is to create dialogue, not necessarily convert people to a certain perspective. And I'm very excited about that and a future that we have.
Maybe in a future episode, we could talk about the connection between India and Japan. One of my friends who's Indian named his son Dharma, which was an Indian god or Indian disciple of sorts who traveled to Japan and kind of found enlightenment there. So historically, there is a lot of cross.
That's like a full 360 sort of. It's like coming back.
A full 360, yeah.
And isn't that the name of the fellow who went to China to study Kung Fu, who started Kung Fu? I don't know if it was Daruma.
Might be the same person.
It might be.
Might be the same person, but we can get into that in a future episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say too much before.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Dianetics. I remember seeing that book. Someone gifted that book to my dad in the 80s. And I remember L. Ron. No, it was in English. I think it was from Walden's Bookstores, R.I.P.
R.I.P. every bookstore.
Yes, right. Seriously. But that's another topic for another day as well. But I remember it said L. Ron Hubbard, so I always wonder what the L stood for. That's really the only thing that when I was like 8 years old, I was like, L. I wonder what why can't I just spell the letter out with the full name? Like, is it Lawrence? Is it Lovely? Like, I didn't have Wikipedia back then.
So I work at a publication, and our investigative reporter is R. Scott Moxley. And to this day, no one knows what the letter R stands for. No one knows.
Robert.
I mean, our HR person knows, but that's it. No one else knows what the R in R. Scott Moxley
I do know what
for.
HR stands for.
Yes, you do know what HR stands for. What does AH1 stand for?
AH1 stands for the Asian Highway 1.
And I think Medha explains it very well what AH1 and Asian Highway 1 is.
My favorite thing to explain.
Yes,
my favorite thing in the world.
Enlighten us, my friend.
Asian Highway 1. One of the many highways as part of the Asian Highway network that goes from Istanbul to Tokyo, believe it or not, it hops somehow over the ocean to Japan. And it's the longest highway, and it travels through 14 countries, and it kind of encompasses the essence of what we're trying to do with this podcast, right?
Sure, exactly. And two of our guests that are here today are actually people that we could cite to for being connected to the highway somehow, some way. Our storytellers today hail from India. And Arthur, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Russia, Uzbekistan.
Okay, so Russia and
former Soviet Union.
Yeah, so this is the musical duo of alchemists, which is Bappa Lahiri and Arthur Mullokandov. I hope I said that right, Arthur Mullokandov?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Hello, Bappa, and hello, Arthur. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for joining us, and we're happy to have you on our first episode. Let's start off. Medha's got the first pair of questions, so we'll have her kind of lead the discussion here.
Sure.
Well, Bappa, like you, I just moved back to the U.S. 4 years ago.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering what the similarities and differences are between what you found about living in the U.S. versus India, or should we just say Asia in general, because you're a world traveler. So you've experienced Asia, you've experienced North America. What are the main differences and similarities?
So, due to my childhood, I've been always traveling with my family, with my father, since childhood. And living in Bombay is a very different experience other than any other parts of India. Why? Because Bombay has a very different culture. There's no one culture. There's not one religion. Everybody's living there together. We don't say, oh, I'm from South, or I'm from North, I'm from... You never hear a person from Bombay coming and saying, oh, you know what, I'm from this region. He just talk about Bombay, just India as, So the way we are brought up in Bombay is very open. We respect all religions. We have, Gujaratis, Marathis, all the religion of India's. Plus now we have so many people around the world staying in Bombay. So for me, I don't find any difference when I come, and especially when I try to compare Los Angeles now, it's almost the same, I really don't find any difference, or, it's people are welcoming, and and especially what I do. I'm a musician. I interact with musicians, and that's a whole different people with especially musicians have this very welcoming. We're always sharing together. We meet new people. We work with Spanish musicians. We're working with people from Japan.
We work with people from Uzbekistan and Russia.
Exactly. We're working with Arthur. So for us, our religion, our language is music. Yeah. That's what we do.
Arthur, how about you? Can you add anything about you're in New York? You're actually Skyping in from New York. Can you share us kind of your perspectives here?
Yeah, actually, I live here for almost 20 years in New York. I came from Russia and the former Soviet Union, and my inspiration was always in music. And since I was a kid, I was listening to Mr. Lahiri songs, and actually, me and Bappa, we kind of got together to collaborate for our album.
So that's pretty interesting. I just want to add something. Imagine, he's talking about music which is 35-year-old, years back. That time there was no internet, there was nothing. But somehow the music went there. We don't know how. He didn't know the language, he didn't know who it was with, he didn't know who actors were. He had no ideas. He just, heard something he liked, maybe from his grandparents who maybe saw that film. And that's it. They didn't have any CDs, they didn't have any cassettes, nothing, no computer, no YouTube. They didn't need any. My dad, I always tell my dad, you never needed YouTube, you never needed anything. You just did it, and it just happened without...
Bappa, let's get real. Okay, so your father is one of the most famous musicians in India.
Right.
In terms of your routine, you could have done... And you could have been, it's like the golden child in India. And for some reason, you've decided to move to America where you have a different routine. You don't have to...
No, I'm still the golden child of my family, but...
Your family, I'm talking about the country. You could have had a much, much more luxurious lifestyle in India, and you've chosen to move here. How has your routine changed? Why have you decided to do this?
It really, for me, work, music is first. Luxuries and all that. I've grown up, since childhood, I've been, I've just, that's, my life has been with God's grace, born in that golden spoon. For me, I don't see, I think I've had enough of that. I can do, I'd rather do my journey. It's about my journey, and it's not about, what I'm born with and what I want to do, or what, it's not that. Now it's about me and my journey, and how I make my journey the luxuries that I can afford, not what my dad or what it's got to do with. It's now my life and my way of doing things. So I think it's much better of, doing.
Bappa, that sort of reminds me of, there was a sitcom here in the 80s called Perfect Strangers.
Right.
It goes, my life, my dreams, nothing's going to stop me now.
Exactly.
And I think of you.
And I think...
I that's all I remember.
No, and I'll tell you one thing. I like what she asked me. I cannot see my friends from Bombay coming here to LA and doing, living the life here, because it's not for everyone. It is difficult for people from Bombay or wherever, because it's so, everybody's, in India, they're so dependent on everything. So it is kind of, difficult, where it comes to see. But, we always travel to London all the time, during our summer holidays. So we did our own thing. We went out, so we bond with, I'm lucky that, I kind of like this kind of a lifestyle.
So, Bappa, let me ask you this, and I'm sure I've asked your father this already in the past. Is when you, as a musician, obviously you're giving music to the world, right? Right. But then I like to believe that it goes both ways, that, when you get your inspiration and things like that, there has to be something coming in for you to make that music to put out. So as far as your audience and people that listen to the music, what are they contributing to you for your own growth as a musician?
You mean the people who listen to the music?
Yeah, or whoever you come across that are fans of yours,
right.
That listen to your music, or people you've interacted with.
Right.
What do you take from them to help in your own personal growth as a musician?
Firstly, I as personally, I make music for myself. That's my first. If I like something first, I need to love what I make first, and then I obviously, without people hearing it, you really don't know. But now it's strange now that people are talking about, it's become the gap between a producer and people, like the audience, has become very, they've become more closer now because of social media and everything. So it's very instant. Now people don't want to say, if they don't like it, they just don't like it. It's right on your face. You just get to know, you put out a song, and within the next 2 days, if it's going to work or no.
Because of social media and such.
Yes. It is very easy to know. You just put one simple sample of your song on your Facebook account, and people like it or not. So it is become very easy now to get reaction from you. But I don't think so that's the right way. Music is such, because sometimes I make a music, you might not like it instantly, but if you hear it, maybe 10 times, 20 times, you'll fall in love with it. And that's how it is.
So in that frame, and this question's for both you and Arthur, how is music then for both of you the personal medium of your storytelling? You have a story to tell through music, right? Music is a language.
Right.
So how are you both individually and collectively using your music, your sounds, to have a dialogue with somebody that even though they may not like it, at some point it's used as a commonality? You know where I'm going with this? And kind of, what do you think about that?
Arthur.
Yeah. Actually, when I get together with Bappa to make music, we usually, our ideas fall in one, and we try to I had this girl. After she heard our album, and she started telling me that she had a tumor, and she was going through a lot of hard time. And after listening to this album, she completely, it healed her. Wow. And she was so happy, and she's still telling me that we're waiting for the second album, and so we kind of try to help her, help the people out there.
So our main idea is to, the way we make music is his influences as him and my influences. That's how we talk. Mm-hmm. More than talking, I think it's about both of us with our musical inspirations. I'm making something here, he's making something there. Together, then we blend it, obviously, the ideas and all that. And that's what you hear. That's where it comes, everything comes together.
And this is a perfect segue to another question I want to ask is,
right.
In a greater construct, how can we use music or any kind of art form as a way to work together. I mean, you've been here. You both of you been here for a while. You see where we are politically, where we are culturally, socially right now, and there's a lot of division. There's a lot of I'm right, you're wrong. It's very binary. Right. How can we break this division between us, and you guys work together?
We are the ones who are making all these divisions, and we are the ones. It's all us who are doing all these things, all the time. It's not anybody. You don't blame it to anyone. I think you need to blame yourselves. We are making music. We're making music just for the world. I think when I'm taking out my music, it's like my own baby, and my baby's out. So for me, I like people to come together here, with so much, trouble is happening around the world. Just, enjoy yourself and, just chill.
Yeah, but, is there a world where you can kind of unify a community, and especially in this political climate, where you can find a way for them to expand beyond their bubble? I mean, even though we have social media and stuff, sometimes we get stuck in our little sort of circuit of people.
Yes.
So how would you think that music, and especially your music, can help foster dialogue between people, to get people to talk beyond their bubble?
See, I mean, our idea, so initially when we started doing the music, we just made music. It was, for us, it was more about just making the song right the way we wanted. As actually in the process of that, we came to know that we were doing something more than just music. There was a story. There was something that came out with that, and we were trying to, that was our second step, that, let's get the story out. Let's get everybody knowing that, this is how we came together and we are doing. It doesn't stop. See, so I do my own, like I'm doing my Bollywood stuff, and I'm doing my own, and then we have our own band called The Alchemists, where we, take our records, which is more generic, which is more world. So we're getting all the communities together. In our songs, you'll hear a duduk, which is a Russian instrument. Then you'll hear a sitar, which is an Indian instrument. And then we suddenly have an oud from UAE playing, So for us, our songs are like a symbol of unity, because we don't make a certain kind of music. If we feel that in this place we might need an opera singer, we might call an opera singer and just, dub an opera. You know what I mean? So that's how we think, defines our music.
Bappa, I wanted to ask, leading to what you were saying about using different instruments from around the world, I find it very fascinating with you and Arthur's band, with The Alchemists. You have two people, one such as yourself, who grew up in Bollywood royalty, with your dad being the disco king of India, right? And then you traveling extensively, kind of settling here in LA, even though you're doing music. You have Arthur, who came quite a while ago, and he brought his musical influences, which happened to be your father, from this different world of Russia, and then coming out here. And yet now you're together in this country, albeit he's in New York, you're in LA, and you bring these two different diverse backgrounds, and you come together in this country to make the music. And I know you were saying you use these instruments from all around the world. Do you think that the fact that you have these two diverse backgrounds is what allows you to kind of make this sort of world music that you're talking about?
Of course, completely. We've grown up listening to all kinds of music, especially in India, you hear all kinds of music, whether it be English, American, you've got all kinds of influences, Chinese, so we have grown up with that, and we're okay to, just use all kinds of influences in our songs and, keep it, how Arthur said, he grew up listening to my dad's song, and so he has a lot of ideas that also influences from India. It doesn't need to be in our songs that, only I come out with Indian influences. He comes out. Sometimes he says, why don't we use an Indian voice here or whatever, you know what I mean?
So with this music that you create, right, then the next question is, in terms of audience, if you have someone from America, because you create music in America, even though it's world music,
right.
How do you connect to the American audience, or someone who is in LA, Chicago, Alabama, wherever? How do you connect to someone like that with the music?
See, our music is more it's actually the new age kind of music, which is more when you're just relaxing. There's no, I mean, we don't have too much vocals on it. Very rare, very soft, maybe just a little, just an alap, which is like an Indian classical style of singing, or it's music for you just to hear. When you come back from a day of work, you just come and play the CD, or you're driving somewhere, or you're having a drink. It's just to relax you. It's not, it's not going to tell you something, or it's not going to make you do something. You know what I mean? It's just relax. And our main aim is, we made this music from our own hearts. It's very simple. This music, we've not spent a lot of time. If we say that, I've spent 3 years doing it, no, it's very simple. It's coming out of, two people, working in the studio, getting some musicians down, and we just, whatever comes to us, we put it out, and this is what it is.
So one thing I think a lot of us have noticed internationally is, here in the United States, for example, you see a lot of people who are born and raised here,
right?
Irrespective of where they're from, they're born and raised here, and they're starting to listen to music or enjoy concerts that are of other ethnicities from other parts of the world, right? And vice versa. You see a lot of Bollywood films or a lot of Russian films or any other film, any other part of the world where they're taking hip hop or taking American rock and roll. It's kind of this cross-cultural where...
Yeah, completely.
Right? So my question is this, is that there are some people who, especially you might hear this in India, you might hear this in parts of Central Asia, East Asia, that this is a function of cultural loss. I'd like to phrase it is it instead a function of cross-cultural dialogue, and how could that, and if that is the case, how that could be an impetus to foster greater dialogue amongst us on a greater scale?
No, I mean, I'll tell you one thing right now, like a few months back when Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie released, so they took one of my dad's songs in India, the movie, they made a trailer out of a song called Jhum Jhum Baba, which was my dad's 1980s hit, and they actually made a trailer out of that. And they, all over India, the media, the only trailer was of Guardians of the Galaxy with an Indian song. So you can imagine how things have changed. So many of my dad's songs have been used in movies here, like Lion, which went on Oscars, Moana he did, Adam Sandler's movie, Jimmy Jimmy was used, so many songs. So, well, good way of saying is using music as your shield. It's like music is one thing which has no, it's very universal. You know what I mean? Like you can directly, I mean, I was in an ice cream parlor a few days back, and I suddenly heard this Indian tune. I'm like, oh, is it an Indian song here? I was like, wow, so that's, I feel proud, when, music is something that everybody knows, and they're so interested in music from Bollywood, and people coming to know about Indian music, and they're fascinated. They want to know how sitar is played, or how tabla is tuned. So I'm really that's the best thing that you can imagine.
Sure. Arthur, do you have anything to add here?
Well, actually, music has no language. I mean, this is two cultures that brought us together. It's only music, because we have completely different cultures. And the music, that's what united us together. And I wish we could, prolong our unity and bring out peace to people through our music.
This is a very good thing that Arthur said. If not for music, music just brought us together.
Sure.
If today we had no music in us, I don't think so we would have, come across. He's been, so that's a very good thing.
Right. And Arthur, one more quick question for you. You said your roots are from Uzbekistan. Do you consider Uzbekistan a part of Asia? Is it Central Asia? Is it something else? How would you define geographically? It's
Central Asia. It used to be Soviet Union. Right. It's a Russian-spoken country. And now it became independent as of 1990. I wasn't there since 20 years, so all my relatives, everybody's here right now.
Okay. And I think Medha has a like question for you, Bappa.
Yeah, I wanted to know, because, I was reading up about you, and granted, you've your father was a famous musician, but you are a musician in your own right. You've done a lot of amazing things. And some of the amazing things you've done have included working with Snoop Dogg and MC Hammer. Do you have any stories to share with us about those experiences?
So I've produced the songs, so that means I created the beats and stuff. I met MC Hammer personally, and
pray tell.
And I was how long was that? Like almost 10, 12 years.
That was
back.
That was like 99. I think.
Oh, exactly. See, he knows more than me. So he was such a cool person to work with. He was just one of us. I was.
You never saw his golden toilet.
He was so simple. He was wearing, he was just wearing jeans. He just drove his car. He just came in. He was like, I was like, is he really the MC Hammer or just we working with someone else? Mm-hmm. And that was the greatest thing about an artist. And because when you start feeling that he's an artist, you're not comfortable. He knew he was working with us, and it was just I had my dad here, him. They were singing on a song for a movie for a Hollywood Bollywood kind of a movie, and I didn't even come to know when he came. He sang. He was so nice, and it's wonderful to work with artists like this. I'm just working with a very big band here called the Ozamatli from Los Angeles. They're one of the most famous bands in Spanish. Mm-hmm. I was there yesterday. I was recording with them, and the best thing is when you work with they're Spanish. We're creating Indian tunes, putting it into Spanish words. Good. Today we are talking about this, and yesterday I just had a session, and exactly what we're talking about today about language, about music. That's what and everybody's enjoying that.
But what's your craziest rock and roll story? I mean, we can all be nice and say, oh, so-and-so was so nice and so-and-so was so nice. Whether it was in India or here, what's your craziest experience where you're like, whoa, did that just happen?
Yeah, I mean, we've got through, like when we go to concerts, we've got some crazy. Sometimes, you come across those people who are, especially in an Indian concert in America. That's why I want to say, we had a concert a few years back, and we were supposed to leave. And apparently, me and my dad, we didn't take pictures with some people, and they actually wanted to they broke the green room, they broke everything to come and kind of take pictures or take revenge. Successfully we were safe, but that did happen here, and they were from India originally.
I think they wanted to look at your dad's jewelry, maybe. But your father is very well known for the jewelry.
These kind of stuff keeps on happening with us around. This is what came to my mind right now. But these are things that keep on happening, and which is, I think, it's positive. I think I after it happened, we were a little, everyone was panicked because But I think it's okay. It's good. This is a way of life. I mean, this is a part of life of an artist, I guess.
Well, there are people who take action, but this podcast is also about taking action.
Right, so I want to make sure we bring it back to that. And I know in speaking with you even a few days ago, leading up to this, I had asked you what cause, whether it's something that's very close to your heart, whether it's a charitable cause, whether it's just something that's very personal to you. Because part of the thing, it's not just about storytelling, but also in the title we have action, right? What are you passionate about? What kind of causes are you passionate about?
And how can people help out with that?
Yeah.
So, for me in India, living in Bombay, the main cause in India is education, I mean, back home, what I think is education is where it all begins. Education is what we're missing today in India, especially. We need, education to be stronger. We need to help people, especially in villages and stuff. People, they don't consider sending women to colleges or schools. They think it's wrong. So, those kind of things, I would like to help, like to do. Mainly, for women, because that's where I think things have changed now. I shouldn't say it's as it is. Things have changed drastically in India. But I think education is what is the most important thing, and I support that.
Is there any way someone could get in, who's listening to the podcast wants to get in touch with you and maybe partner with you? Is there a way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, of course. We are available on our group. Our band name is Alchemists with a K, and my album name is My Existence. And we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So you can get in touch with us anytime you want.
Okay, Arthur, is there any cause you want to kind of promote and get out there?
Just, I guess, tranquility for the world, and peace around the world. And I hope the music, brings us all together, I guess. And,
Great. Okay, and real quick, where can people find you? Is there a website, an email address?
Yes, we have an email address called alchemistmusic@gmail.com. Alchemists as at the end. And it's our CD. Our music is available on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play.
And Alchemist is spelled ALKEMISTS.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
The album is
STS,
My Existence, and I believe it's on Spotify as well. So
It's on Spotify. It's
It is,
actually
it
everywhere.
is.
Wonderful
on
album,
Spotify.
actually. I was
definitely
just
check it
listening
out.
to
Yes, definitely check it out. And also don't forget to check us out. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, we are AH1 or Asian Highway 1. You could find us on Facebook, which is Asian Highway and the number 1. You could follow us on Twitter. Our handle is AH1 Live. You could also follow us on Instagram, which is also AH1 Live. You could also follow me. Mine is Parimal Rohit, PARIMAL ROHIT. Debesh?
You could follow me on Instagram at FreshDebesh or on Twitter on at FreshestDebesh.
And Medha, where do we find you?
Medha Jaishankar or Medha Jaishankar, both on Instagram and Twitter. My first name is Medha. My last name is Jaishankar.
And we do want to give a special shout out to Visual Communications for allowing us to be here. We're in Little Tokyo. Also a shout out to Marvin Yue for helping us put the show together. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today. And it's been a pleasure bringing to our two storytellers. Join us again next episode when we will have, I believe it's Tron La. I want to make sure I say that right. It's when you see it looks like Tron LA, but it's Tron La. He's a DJ. He'll be joining us next week for our next show. We certainly hope you join us then. And it's been a pleasure again. And on behalf of Medha, Marvin, Debesh, and Alchemist,
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Be
All right.
good, y'all. Be good.
All right,
Yes.
peace. And now for your listening pleasure, here's a track from The Alchemists, Lost Souls.